stop right now looking for the best tricep exercise, the best bicep exercise. Stop. Hey folks, Dr. Mike Israel here for Renaissance Periodization, and today's topic is arm specialization, when size matters. P.S. I'm Dr. Mike. I'm a competitive bodybuilder, grappler, professor of sports science, creator of a whole bunch of apps here at RP, and this channel is about how to get you guys to know stuff and not be fooled by fitness industry BS. So welcome. If you want to subscribe, dope. If not, no big deal. For folks that are already subscribed, we've got a member section. Give that some thought. And also, just randomly, I just want to share something with you guys. I've had it with Scott the Video Guy lately, and if any of you know the mob or associated with the mafia and know how to get rid of people, just mention that in the comments.
And I was just saying how great your body was. Unbelievable.
And he does this thing where he knows we're on bad terms. So he's like, Mike, looking good, buddy. And I'm like, Scott, fucking spare me. Son of a bitch. Don't seduce me, Scott the Video Guy. Not for the 8th time. In any case, my strange sexual relationship with the videographer aside, you want big arms. I know you do. And you're looking for the best program for arms, which is why you clicked on our outrageously, no doubt, thumbnailed and titled video. I have bad news for you. The ultimate arm program does not exist. Just like the tastiest food does not exist. It's normal to us if you you guys ever sit like a bus or a plane next to someone and you just watch over their shoulder as they scroll on their phone? I would never do that. That's a huge violation of privacy. But I do it all the time. And if someone's searching for best program for big arms, we don't bat an eye at it because we assume such a thing exists. But can you imagine someone you watch someone Google on the plane, tastiest food ever search, you're like, do you need some kind of love that you're not getting at home? What the fuck does tastiest food ever mean? How do you even compare Thai food and Chinese food? It's just two winners. It's impossible. So, tastiest food doesn't exist. The best program for arms doesn't exist, but with food and cooking, there are dependable rules on how to make food that usually will make it taste better if you follow the rules. Rules like use the microwave, cook with sadness, don't follow any recipes, follow your own heart, shit like that. No, I'm kidding. Shit like use spices and make sure you're sequencing your meal creation appropriately so that something is not just cooling on the stove or was supposed to be hot when you mix it into other stuff. These ideas and rules are dependable because professional chefs are trained in them and then they already know them by heart. So kind of anything that comes out of a professional chef's arsenal will taste better than a regular person's. Not because they know exactly how to make every single food into the perfect food, but because they know these principles. Just the same way with lifting, there are dependable rules on how to create a program, which means many programs can be created, but all of them have something in common. They follow these dependable rules, and they're much more effective than not for big arms. So for you, I have an exclusive, one-time only offer, see? 10 rules of arm size. I didn't mean for them to be 10. I just started writing rules down, and then there was 10, and I was like, ran out of rules. So here they are. I'm going to talk about them in depth with you. First, strict technique. Strict technique allows you to target the muscle that you want, not target and fatigue other muscles that are irrelevant, and keep you safe and your joints and connective tissues plugging along really good. So anytime you say you want big arms, you had better have good technique on your curls, on your extensions, on your skull crushers, the whole bit. If you're doing some stupid bullshit and you're like, I want big arms, just got to go hard, and your technique is awful, that is priority number 1 for you to fix if you need big arms. Number 2, deep stretches. If you're training biceps and you're able to do an incline curl where your biceps are behind your body, if you're doing triceps, at the very top of the push down, let the bar come up and really stretch the back of your tricep. That is going to cause more muscle growth than not. So a part of good technique is to have a deep stretch incorporated kind of as often as possible in your exercises. Rule number 3, try every single rep range for its best stimulus to fatigue ratio to you. What does that mean? You want to try sets of 5 to 10 for arms. You want to try sets of 10 to 20 for arms. You want to try sets of 20 to 30 reps, close to failure, for arms. Depending on your genetics and your training history and the difference between your biceps and your triceps, some of those may be bigger winners than others on the stimulus to fatigue ratio, which means what? You might try doing curls for sets of 8, right? 5 to 10 rep range. And you notice that your elbows kind of hurt. It's really hard systemically to lift that much weight. So you don't really get a pump or a big stretch in your bicep. It just feels like you're just like training elbows at that point. Man, fuck that. And you might think that the barbell curl is just not for me, but hold on a second. Try sets of 10 to 20 reps. Doing sets of 15-ish reps, you might realize, holy shit, my elbows feel pretty good. And my biceps are getting crazy pumps and they get sore for a few days. I like it. Then you might try sets of 20 to 30 on that barbell curl exercise and realize like your joints feel fine, but the biceps never really get pumped. They just get really tired. You're like, man, fuck this 25 rep bullshit, man. Like, I'm just getting tired. I'm not getting sore. I'm not getting fatigued in that right deep way in the muscle that I know correlates to growth. It just feels like I'm wasting my time. If you don't limit yourself to rep ranges, and when you try any tricep or bicep exercises, you experiment with a wide swath of rep ranges, you're gonna find dependable answers. And it's gonna lead to one of two things. One, for certain exercises, certain rep ranges you know for you work better than others, and then you stick to them, and then you have better gains. Or, lucky you find out that everything's just a little different, but everything works well. And then, hey, great, use all the rep ranges you want, no big deal. You just found all winners. For most people, it's going to be more of that first scenario where they realize for some exercises, this rep range is the best, the other two rep ranges aren't that great, but try them all. So if someone's like, dude, I'm telling you, man, big arms, you need sets of 8, alternating dumbbell curls. You could be like, oh, that's an interesting idea to try, but I'm not just going to limit myself to that. I'm going to try that exercise with lower reps, with higher reps, with everything in between to see where am I getting my best stimulus, pumps and soreness and fatigue in the muscle, and my least fatigue. I don't have to try as hard and get as tired, and my joints feel much better than they otherwise would. Next, point number 4. This is a huge point. The 4th rule of arm size is to search for multiple effective variations rather than optimal movements. Right very now, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on all social media, there are people Googling something they shouldn't be Googling. They're asking ChatGPT something they shouldn't be asking. What's the best movement for arms? What's the best bicep exercise? I get asked this in my fucking messages and in my comments on my posts all the time. Why barbell curl versus easy bar, Mike? It's a very innocent question, but it's asked. Once it leaves the user's mouth or keyboard, it's already dead on arrival because there is no such thing as the best movement for muscle. It simply doesn't exist, and I can tell you exactly why. Even if you take a movement that is biomechanically arranged to seem like it's the best, and for the first few weeks or months you're using it, it really is the best, at some point, there's a process called staleness. We're just doing the same shit over and over. Your body's like, fuck this. I'm not growing from this anymore. You know what? I'm going to turn up some joint pain for this motherfucker. Throw some dice in this bitch face. Like, I ain't doing it. Your body gets tired of doing the same shit. And its responses will not be optimized after some usually number of months. And then you thought you discover the one-arm alternating dumbbell curl was the best for biceps. 4 months in, you're like, dude, it's not working like it used to, and it feels like shit. But it's the best. The fuck am I supposed to do? Like, how do I do something worse? But it's not worse. You try another also effective variant because there are multiple exercises that are very good. And now because it's not stale, because you haven't been using it a few months, it's going to be an incredible stimulus with very low fatigue for your biceps. And now it's the best exercise. But that won't happen forever because it'll recycle. So what I encourage you to do is stop right now looking for the best tricep exercise, the best bicep exercise. Stop. What I want you to do instead is find 3 to 5 exercises for you, for biceps and triceps each. That's a sum total of 6 to 10 exercises that are very good. You don't care which one's the best. They're very good. Scott, should I make the politically incorrect harem joke? Fuck it. If you happen to be a single heterosexual male who is not looking for a monogamous relationship, huge caveat to that. Do you want the hottest girl? Nope. Why? Because you want 3 to 5 of them hoes in your rotation. You text one hoe, she's like, I'm busy. You're like, man, fuck you, send. You probably don't want to do that. You're like, that's all right, baby. Haha. It's your boy, send. And then you DM that other bitch and you're like, hey, what's up, Stacy? And she's like, oh my God, I've been thinking about you. You're like, I'm in, boom, Uber to her house. And then 3 days later, Stacy's dope, but she's not a redhead and you like them redheads. And Francine happens to be a redhead, and she's like, hey, I just got back from New York and I'm really tired. But like, I could use like a day of like Netflix. You're like, I know what that means. Send. You got the rotation. Now, me personally, I've never had remotely enough game to see a woman in real life, not shit my pants, definitely not talk to women, and for sure shit operate essentially a harem, a voluntary harem, of course. But people who have sex with lots of other people will tell you that the idea that there's like the one hot girl that I'm just going to bang her and that's it, not how that's not how the game works. You want a rotation. All the girls in your rotation are hot as fuck, but not one of them is like, well, no, that's it. That's wifey material. Because typically, if you're interested in wifey, you don't do the harem rotation shit anymore. That's not a sustainable practice. So just the same way with exercises, you're not looking for the best bicep movement. Fuck that. It doesn't exist. But you're looking for 3 to 5 movements for biceps and 3 to 5 for triceps, which you really lean on. And when some of them are going real well and their stimulus to fatigue ratio is super high, you cook them. But then when they're not, your elbows start getting creaky, the pump's just not what it used to be, flip it in. If Stacy's not available, you DM Patricia. That's it. It's on. Isn't that how it works? Scott, is that how it works? You've had lots of sex with lots of attractive women before, being that you're a giga chad or whatever the hell the internet says about you.
It's all been a lie.
You're a good liar. You lied to me about that.
Yeah.
How could you?
It's all image, you know.
To do what? To not have sex with a lot of women? Well, there's got to be an end to this. All right. Rule number 5. We got our effective exercises. We got strict technique. We got deep stretches. We've tried all the rep ranges. We know it works for us. Rule 5 is you got to train arms first, or at the very least early in any given session of the week in which you train them. Here's the thing. I don't know how many times this has happened to me, but it seems like dozens. You walk into the gym, you always know some people at the gym. Oh yeah, Frank, he's great. Or that guy, I don't know his name, but I've talked to him for 2 years in the fucking locker room. And they'll tell you shit. You guys know how it is. People in the gym will tell you shit you never asked for. They're like, yeah, man, how you doing? Like, pretty good. Fuck November, it's fucking cold, am I right? You're like, yeah, man, it's fucking brutal. Yep. And like, yeah, just got to bring these arms up, And you're like, oh, very well. Why are you telling me this? Of course, you're not a dick like me, so you don't say things like that. You go, dope, man, arm season, baby, every fucking day out here. And like, yep. And then you watch them do their workout. They start with wide grip bench. Then they go to flies. Then they go to close grip bench. Then they go to dips. And then to 2 drop sets of rope pushdowns. And they're like, that's it, man. Arms. You're like, what? But you did the tricep exercise last. Your chest was super exhausted and front delts were totally cooked. You said you wanted arms as the most important thing in your program. You did them with the least energy at the very tail end of your workout, where you're not only physically drained, but psychologically more or less checked the fuck out. So if someone's real serious about getting bigger arms, you better hope, and when they come into the gym and arms are on the menu at all, most times either first or second. So yeah, you might close grip bench first to get that overall stimulus, but next thing you do is fucking skull crushers. And the next thing you do is rope pushdowns. And then that's it for triceps. You're not trying to save triceps for last. You're trying to do them first. If it's biceps, yeah, maybe do some underhand pull-ups first to get the biceps and back involved. But right after that is time for curls. And then later you might do some kind of machine rowing. You wouldn't do pull up, pull down, row, and then curl. You could for great overall development, phenomenal back development, but arms, if you're really serious about them, you're going to train them early. Does that violate the rule of compounds first or big muscle groups first? Yeah. Is that really a rule? No. Somebody just made it up. It worked great in a sport performance context. It worked great in a saving time if you're a busy person context. It doesn't work great at all if you want big fucking arms. If you want the biggest arms you can get, you start with arms. You get real early in most of your training sessions that you show up. And if I'm in the gym with you and I see you tell me you want arms, and the first thing you do is you start fucking going heavy on curls, I'm like, wow, this is a person that's really doing what they said they want. Right? It's like someone who's like desperate to like, oh my God, I just want to meet the right person. I'm so lonely. And they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, what are you doing tonight? They're like, oh, I'm just sitting at home alone on Netflix. You're like, there's places you can go to meet people. They're like, I don't know, I'm tired. You're like, okay. So when you told me you really need this thing called not loneliness, you're not really doing anything about it. Same idea with arms. You want to train them first or early in the program every single time you got them on deck. Rule number 6. Try some compound post-exhausts. It's the mirror image of pre-exhausts. What the fuck do I mean by that? If you start your bicep day with barbell curls, and then after that you do cable curls, you might be in a position where some underhand pull-ups or pull-downs as the last exercise your biceps are now the limiting factor. And because you're so in touch with them, your mind-muscle connection with them is maximum. So if you're a person that can do like 20 underhand pull-ups regularly, after 2 bicep exercises, you might only be able to do 10. But every single rep cooks your biceps off the bone. By pre-exhausting biceps with their isolation movements, the post-exhaust compound movement is now just another bicep movement. So it multiplies your variation. It allows you to target the biceps again, but with a movement that's typically not for biceps. Underhand pull-downs are a little bit for biceps, mostly for back. Same idea with push-ups or dumbbell press or close grip bench after tricep work. If you do close grip push-ups, normally, that's a lot of pecs, a lot of front delts, a lot of triceps, great. But if you do 5 sets of push-downs, 3 sets of one arm behind the neck dumbbell extensions, and then you do some close grip push-ups, holy shit. Your triceps are done. Every single rep is triceps to the limit. And of course, it'll hit your chest too, because it's got to wake up and cover the slack. But by the time it wakes up, your triceps are taking mega damage, mega stimulus. So don't just look at arms in isolation, literally, as like, I only do curls or extensions for arms. Definitely do that first, but then consider layering in a post-exhausted compound movement that's still biased to be more arms, so close grip work only. You're not going to do wide grip bench after triceps. That's stupid. Try that. It'll put that last little finishing touch of cooking the living fuck out of your arms, and with a new variation of a compound you're normally not exposed to. It's like growing a magical variation out of anything. Because like, if your arms are tired enough, everything's arms after that. And that's exactly what we're exploiting in this case. Rule number 7. This is another really, really big one. I guess these are all big, but some of them are a bit more nuanced. Train your arms as often as they recover. Well, hold on. What does recover mean? It means your arms are no longer sore, they're no longer tired, and your rep and load performance is typical or better than typical. Let's say normally you can curl 50 pounds, barbell curl 50 pounds for 10 reps. And then after that, for like a couple days, your biceps will feel kind of tense and tight, a little sore, a little kind of weak. And if you try to come in the next day and curl, you might get 50 pounds for like 7 reps. You're like, well, that's not really much of an overload. I'm actually regressing. Maybe I'm training a little too often. But if you come back 2 or 3 days later, you can do 50 for 10 or even 11 reps, and your biceps are completely healed. Like someone's like, hey, you ready to train arms? You're like, dude, fuck, absolutely ready. I'm fucking healed. And you know when you're healed. You've got energy, your muscles feel nice and full, they're not sore. Then you hit it again. Because if you wait longer than that, that's not like your arms shrink away to nothing. They mostly just maintain their size for actually at least a week. But you're missing an opportunity to hit it again. I'm going to make a really, what the fuck is all the sex analogies on this channel, Scott? We're getting canceled for sure. Let's say you're in a super crazy text message /DM/video flirt sesh with some nice young lady you're talking to on the internet. Oh boy, that's how love happens. Thanks, 50s kid. So you planned a weekend with her where you're both arriving across the country to St. Louis, Missouri. Scott, isn't that a nice place to have a romantic endeavor?
I mean, our editor Max Strassney's there, I think.
Hey, Max Strassney might be a third if you pick him up. He's a muscular young man with lots of energy for sex. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, I assume. So let's say you're in a situation where you're only with that super crazy, psychotic, romantic flirt partner of yours for 2 days. That's how long you got the hotel for. And you got flights and shit. And you're not made of $1 trillion like I physically am literally made of money, actually. So you can't just be like, fuck it, I'll just stay another week. You got a certain amount of time to get it in, if you know what I mean. I mean that literally as well. Always use condoms and the pill or whatever. You put the pill in the condom. I don't know how that works. I've never been with a woman before. However long you're there for, you're going to try to get it in as much as possible, which means that once the flesh is willing, you're in again. So that means like you show up to the hotel, hit it. Orange juice, room service, nap, wake up in the middle of the night, you hit it again. Breakfast, you hit it again. And so on and so forth. So you can leave and be like, dude, I think we did this shit like 5 times. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to need a week. And you're like, hey, but no missed opportunities. And so when her friends, she gets back to her area of the woods, you get back to yours, and your friends are like, dude, how was it? You're like, I can honestly tell you fellas, we took every single opportunity to express our physical love to each other. That was literally available based on the rules of recovery. Like if we're trying to do stuff and we're both still physically hurting, We just need to chill and watch TV a little bit. But once we've recovered enough to where the willingness is there and the physical ability to tolerate tissue damage is there, I think it's how it works. Scott, is that how that? In any case, I know how things work. You are taking every opportunity possible. Let's wind that whole crazy analogy back and get right back to the real point. If you train your arms seriously, according to how you tell people, but you train them once a week, I'm going to assume that it takes your arms an entire week to recover, which is bullshit in almost every case. Most people's arms can recover from hard workouts, 1 to 3 days later, which means if you are a fast recovering individual and you're not crazy doing a ton of volume per workout, you might be able to train your arms 4 times a week. And someone's like, dude, really, arms 4 times a week? Like, why? You're like, because I'm recovered every day or every other day. And if I can train my arms hard because I'm recovered, I do it. Density. On the other hand, if it takes me half a week to recover from arms, probably my arms are fucking enormous then, does it take that long to recover and it's not a problem, then I'm going to train them twice a week. But I'm sure as shit not spending any time where I could have been training arms, not training arms. So train the arms as often as they recover means you do 2 things to do. 1, determine how quickly your arms recover. If it's every other day, motherfucker, you training your arms every other day then. And if you say, well, God, that's a lot of work. Do you want big arms or not? A lot of times people will say back, I train it once or twice a week, legs, leg day just once a week, and I'm growing. But you tell people the real deal, they say, hey, I want big arms. And you go, okay, what are you willing to do for it? They're like, bro, fucking rich piano, man, love it, kill it, or whatever, everything. Sweet. When you're not sore or tired and you're ready to perform at your highest level again, you train arms. And they're like, that would mean I train arms like 4 times a week. That's it. Then you do. And they're like, oh, fuck. I don't know how serious I am about arm size. Haha, I got you, pussy. You're backtracking now. So if you're really serious about training arms, you train them when they recover, which is, by the way, true for every single other muscle. But people don't usually mean that when they talk about arms because they're surprised how quickly arms can recover. And if they're recovered, train them again. So all that Mike Menser, that hit philosophy bullshit, the way to get big arms is to train them once every epoch. So like the Holocene, we train arms once. The Pleistocene, we train. Fuck out of my face with that. You train when them shits recover. And that means relatively high frequency training because your arms do not take a week to recover. Maybe they take half a week, but maybe more or less they take like 1 or 2 or 3 days. Next, rule number 8. The body is a totally integrated system. There are parts of that system, individual muscles, which recover on their own timelines, and not much of the rest of the body affects them. But there are systemic recovery capacities and concerns that if you train other things hard in the body, other muscles hard, it drains the ability of other muscles that are unrelated to get their best growth. That means because we're dealing with a finite system, we have to maximize our utility to whatever it is we want to do the most. For example, if you take a fighter bomber aircraft that's capable of having anti-aircraft missiles to shoot at other planes or guided bombs to drop on land targets, and you send it out, the typical loadout could be like about half anti-air missiles and half bombs. But if the mission of the aircraft is to rain hell on the enemy down below, and the Air Force has gained air superiority in the battle space, you actually don't need maybe more than 2 anti-aircraft missiles and maybe 0. Why? It's not like you're like, well, fuck it, who cares? It's because you only have a certain number of hard points in order to attach bombs. And the more anti-aircraft missiles you have on there, it looks cool in Flight Simulator, but the fewer bombs you can have. And that means your stated goal of pounding the enemy on the ground. Hey, Scott, you ever pound the enemy on the ground before? Maybe not the enemy, am I right?
No comment.
Slick. Son of a bitch. He knows more than he makes it seem like. In any case, if you really want to pound it in with ground ordnance, you got to take some missiles off because there's only so many points of attachment on a plane. Plane can only take off with so much weight. Just the same way, your body has a limited amount of total maximum recoverable volume it has for its whole system. Forearms plus legs plus calves plus chest plus back plus arms plus shoulders, that all adds up. So if you want the biggest arms you can have, it's a real good idea to back off a little bit on the other parts of your body to give arms that extra advantage of really being unlimited by systemic concerns. And the difference in volume there can be really big. The difference in the amount of growth you can elicit by backing off on some stuff versus not is fucking huge. Just like if you take a fighter bomber, it has 8 hard points for ordnance, you can drop 8 bombs, Or if you just don't change anything, you can only drop 4 bombs. 4 versus 8 bombs is a very different degree of destruction. The enemy's going to feel that very differently. Just the same way, if you train back hard and chest hard and shoulders hard and legs hard and everything hard, specializing on arms is in name only. Now, you can still train arms first in the session. You can do a couple more sets for them, maybe push close to your limits. But ideally, if you're real serious about arm prioritization, especially if you're advanced, you want to back off at least a little bit on the rest, which means your leg workouts, you take them down to maintenance volume, which is 1/3 of your typical training volume. It's very small. Take your chest, take your back, take your shoulders, all to maintenance volume. Folks, the definition of maintenance volume is enough training volume to not make you lose any muscle at all. So you will not lose muscle. You just won't be gaining any in those muscle groups. You say, well, that sucks. I'm missing out on 3 months of leg gains. Why? Because you have so much bandwidth now opened up. So much systemic fatigue tolerance is now totally free because your body's like, dude, all this other training is easy as fuck. What are we going to do with the spare reserves? And you're like, arms. And your body's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And all of a sudden you can train arms more frequently or heavier or take them close to true muscular failure versus systemic failure. All these huge advantages start piling up. And then the quality and quantity of your arm training is just categorically higher. And then after 3 months of that, you go, holy shit, I mean, amazing arm gains. Now it's back for me to put arms on the back burner, take legs and chest or everything and just go back to a normal program. Or just do arms normally, but throw back everything in like it's normal. So that backing off on the rest, that's a really, really big deal. You don't need to use it, but if you've sort of really tried to get big arms and nothing's worked, I would say it's time to really reduce everything down to maintenance volume, which again is roughly 1/3 of the typical number of sets you do per week for that muscle group, and kick the rest in to arms. Now, I'm not saying just take all that volume and transfer it linearly into arms. I'm saying do the normal volume you do for arms, see how your recovery progresses week to week. If you've truly reduced everything a lot, your recovery week to week is going to be easy, 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 easy. And you can either go for longer without deloading, put more weight on each time, add more reps each time, or increase the volume you do in each session much more than normal. Either way you slice it, you get better gains. More recovery capacity means more gains. And the way you free that up is to reduce the training of the other parts of the body. Rule number 9, eat, damn it. Folks, we're going to keep this part really simple. Your muscles are made of things, and those things are not available in your body normally, which is why you eat them in food. Things like protein. And protein automatically doesn't make you jacked because it requires calories in order to install the protein in your body, in order to feed the rest of the body so the body doesn't come looking for your muscles for food. So you need plenty of protein, plenty of calories, just good fucking nutrition. And if you want something to get bigger, typically you need more calories than you normally consume because you're going to be getting bigger. If I have an office space, it's 3,000 square feet, there's a certain amount of stuff that's going to be in it. If I'm trying to expand my office space to 5,000 square feet, I'm going to be buying more stuff. There's not a situation which is like, okay, we're just going to move around the furniture that we have the 3,000 square foot space and it's going to be totally fine. Like this room's empty. Like, well, we ran out of stuff. Time to buy more stuff. Just the same way, you need more construction equipment to build something 5,000 square feet than 3,000. You're going to need more raw materials, protein, and good nutritious calories in order to build bigger arms. Because you can build bigger arms without gaining a bunch of weight or a bunch of raw tissue. But if you want big arms that are much bigger, you're going to have to eat your way up to it. The contrary point is quite sad. Someone who weighs 130 pounds, they're just training like fucking mad and optimally too. Just great training. They watched all RP videos. And they eat to be 130 and they're already lean and they train like their arms like crazy and they get a little minimal, like a little better of a pump, but because they're 130, nothing happens. I didn't have this in mind when I started this rant, but there's actually a person who I can point to directly. Tristan Lee was like roughly 130, 135 pounds for years. Tristan trained his ass off and got very, very few gains. Recently, Mr. Coach IFB Pro Jared Feather took over Tristan's most of his training and took over entirely his diet and increased the calories so much that Tristan now weighs, like as the recording this video in late November 2023, he's like 165 and not that much fatter, just so much bigger. People are like, oh my God, how did he gain this weight? Like, assuming he's still drug-free, which he says he is, so I believe him tentatively, as I do everyone, including myself, is just the extra calories, bro. And they got to come from somewhere. So if you have someone who is 130 pounds and they're just trying to get bigger arms, you got to get them to realize that with the same exact muscle size and frame that they currently have, 130 isn't going to be what gets you bigger arms. 140 could be an extra 5 pounds per arm. Now that'll be noticeable, but you got to eat your way up to 140. If you can ever give your body the nutrition that it needs to get to 140, there's just no way, fucking literally, according to the laws of thermodynamics, that you're going to be able to get bigger without introducing more raw materials. And it's sad when people spend so much time training and miss out on the weight gain nutrition aspect. So if you want bigger arms, if you want bigger anything, you got to eat up for it. Maybe for 12 weeks, gain a half a pound or a quarter pound of body weight per fucking week. It's not that big of a deal. You gain 4 pounds, you gain 6 pounds total. That shit goes to your arms. Your arms are way bigger. Provide that calorie surplus with plenty of protein. You got to eat for size. Must eat for size. And a lot of times when people review various programs, especially in YouTube comments, like, yeah, man, this program, high volume, didn't work for me, man. I actually got smaller. And there's all kinds of things I have to say about that. And one of them is like, well, did you gain weight? And a lot of times they're like, no. We're like, so how do you know if it's a good program if you didn't even gain weight? Weight gain is something that happens without the program. You just have to eat your way up to it. If you actually gain weight and you still had shitty results, well, yeah, it's a bad muscle building program. But if you don't ever give yourself the nutrition to gain weight, you're actually not in the position to evaluate any program. It's like someone gives you a fighter jet and they're like, I'll come back in 2 days, ask you how it was. You come back and you're like, what do you think? Like, man, it sucks. Like, okay, how did it fly? You're like, what? I never put gas in it. Like, what the fuck? How can you tell if it works or not? Like, I don't know. I just don't like how it looks. What? So eating for growth it's rule number 9 because all the training rules come first. It is really important. And most people get it right, but don't be that tragic figure that gets it wrong. Mystery as to why your arms aren't big. You just don't eat enough to fill them shits out. You might even be training really well. Lastly, rule number 10. Your body gets tired of shit. Your arms, like every muscle, will get into staleness period where they're resistant to further hypertrophy. You can grind in growth for a while, and then arms, they get tired and they need a break. So my best guess for you as to how to do things would be to take a few months, really focus on arms, grind, eat, and then take a break. And by break, I mean just go back to normal training where your arms are trained normally and not in any special way. Your arms will relax, they'll cool off, they'll heal, they'll get reinvigorated for more gains. And then a couple months later, you can start that whole procedure all over again. You just don't want to prioritize your arms for 2 years straight and realize that the first 6 months were really great and the last year and a half has just been you tired and your elbows hurting. So great gains in most endeavors, and definitely in sports science, are a matter of what's called concentrated loading. You really push and push and push and push and push. And then at some point when the system starts to get really, just nothing great is happening anymore, you back off. It's just kind of similar, fuck it, why not? Keep these stupid analogies coming. It's like banging, you fucking bang for a while, everyone's having fun. You bang for longer than a while, everyone's like, I don't really know what we're getting out of this. Take a break, Netflix, chill, a couple gallons of orange juice, and then later in the night, you may find that banging is great again. Don't just be like, hey, we're here for 2 days in the hotel, right? And she's like, yeah, do you think we can have intercourse physically for 36 hours straight? She's going to be like, is anyone winning at that point? You're like, well, yeah, by fucking OnlyFans, they want to see it. She's like, oh shit. Well, as long as I get 50% of that monetization, we're in, baby. But since shit doesn't work like that with your arms, I don't know if you're monetizing on OnlyFans. Scott, how many of our viewers monetize with their arms on OnlyFans?
I would guess
I would think 99%. Two very different guesses. Grind for a few months. When your arms get tired, take a break, start later a few months, and that'll be really good. Training for muscle growth is never going to be the same. We were not just going to let you off with these tips. It turns out we have this thing called the RP Hypertrophy app, and it has preloaded arm specialization programs in there, and they're very good. But I wrote a special one that you can just copy and paste right into your fucking app anytime you want. And look, if you don't download the app, no big deal. We're still friends. You can just do this program that we have displayed for you right here, do it verbatim, and it's a fucking great program. So I wrote it for you to go over it real quick. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So 5 days a week. And the reason I spread it out this weird way is because the arm emphasis days are every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And that gives us time to train other muscle groups, but really a huge time to stimulate arms, back off, let them rest, stimulate, back off, let them rest, stimulate again. Mondays, we start with barbell skull crushers for triceps. By the way, you can use any exercises you want, but I would keep the relative positions the same. Triceps, barbell skull crushers, then that pre-cooks your triceps. Then you do flat dumbbell press for chest. But remember, because your triceps are pre-cooked, you're already training triceps again with that exercise. You move on to biceps with easy curl. And then you do underhand grip pull downs. So you hit your back and your chest a little bit, but mostly it's biceps and triceps. Tuesday, you hit quads, you hit hamstrings, you hit shoulders. Nothing crazy. Maintenance volume. Come in Wednesday, and now you start with biceps instead of triceps. So you do dumbbell curls on the incline. Then you do easy underhand row. But remember, that's more biceps than normal because you've pre-exhausted your biceps. Then you do cable tricep pushdowns. And then deficit push-ups. Again, that pre-exhaust means you're checking your back off. You're checking your chest off, but it's way more arms than it would normally be. Friday, you come in again. You do stiff-legged deadlifts, leg presses, dumbbell lateral raises. Great. Nobody lost, nobody found. And then on Saturday, you do triceps, easy bar overhead extension. You do incline dumbbell press. Again, a little bit of chest and more triceps because of that order, that post-exhaust situation. Biceps, you do free motion curls facing away from the machine, so you get a big stretch at the bottom. And then for back, you do assisted pull-ups, but it's an underhand grip. And you really focus on the biceps the entire time. So you've got your chest, you've got your back, and you're cooking your arms 3 times a week. Start with 2 or 3 sets on every exercise. Over the course of multiple weeks, try to increase the number of sets if you feel like you're recovering well. If you're not, keep the sets the same. Increase a rep here and there, 2.5 to 5 pounds on the bar here and there. You're going to make amazing progress. Deload. Switch some of the exercise around, switch some of the orders around, hit it again, do it 2 or 3 times. And fellas and ladies, you will have bigger arm. And people will just respect you more. You're going to walk into your work and your boss is going to be like, boss? And you're like, oh, I guess I am in charge. Thanks. And he's like, oh, shit, those arms. He's on his knees begging. Typical day at work for you at that point. All right, let's wrap this up. What do beginners get out of this? What do intermediates get out of this? And what do advanced lifters get out of this? If you are a beginner, lifting between 0 and 2 to 3 years, what you want out of this discussion is very simple. Strict technique, because that's the baseline for everything else to build big arms. Focus on deep stretches on all of your lifts that you can, and train your arms first or early in most of the sessions in which you train them. If you just do those 3 things as a beginner, you're going to get way better arm results. Don't even worry about the rest of the shit. For intermediates, you focus on all 10 rules for arms, especially the rules that you haven't been so much focused about. So for example, if you've been doing strict technique and deep stretches, you've done the compound post-exhaust, it's really working, but you haven't really ever tried multiple variants, you've just tried to really dig into the optimal movements, and your arms recover fine, but you're not training them as often as they recover, you just train twice a week. Try to focus on those more variants and the more recovery, more training to recovery, because you haven't been before. The stuff you've been doing well before, it's already been working for you. Try to really round out to make sure you can go through all 10 rules and be like, damn, I'm really doing a good job on all this, which means really the only thing up to chance now is just genetics, because I've taken care of the eating. I'm training very, very well. What I got coming to me is what I got coming. What you don't want is to have small arms, and the reason you have them is because you just didn't do a good enough job in a way that you could have easily done. So as an intermediate, you want to check all the boxes that you can check. Now, for the advanced, and again, if you're a beginner or intermediate, you don't understand what I'm saying to the advanced, well, that makes sense because it's for advanced folks. Learn which exercises give you your best stimulus to fatigue ratios. You should already have a very good understanding of that. You want to also, when you're trying to get bigger arms, highly reduce your training volume for the other muscle groups when arms are your biggest focus, because big arms on an already big person, they take a lot of training effort. And also, the rest of your body training, chest and back and shoulders and legs as a fucking advanced person, drains the shit out of your systemic abilities. If you reduce that to maintenance volume, the amount of energy you've opened up for your arms is enormous, and it's going to make a big difference. And lastly, very important point, especially for the advanced, learn roughly what your minimum effective volumes are for your arms, and learn roughly what your maximum recoverable volume is for your arms, especially in the context of prioritized programs where arms are primary focus and everything else is secondary focus, something you can do in the RPI Hypertrophy app, by the way, just by labeling it, and it handles all the periodization for you. The note here is a big one. Study after study shows that when you specialize on a muscle group, the maximum recoverable volume, the most volume you can do and still recover and benefit from, can be much, much higher than it normally is in the context of a program in which you train your whole body very hard. So for example, if you're training chest and back and legs and arms and everything all relatively evenly, your maximum recoverable volume for biceps and triceps individually might be like 20 sets a week, 20 sets for biceps, 20 sets of triceps. You do more than that and you kind of run aground. But if you really pare down to maintenance volume, your shoulders, your chest, your back, and your legs, and you start again with minimum effective volume for arms, you might keep climbing to 25 sets, to 30 sets, even beyond 35 sets of each biceps and triceps. And you're like, oh my God, how the fuck am I still recovering and making these crazy gains? It's because you backed off on everything else. Once you back off on everything else, do not underestimate the peak of your MRV because it might be much higher than you're normally going. And a lot of folks that have struggled with arms, they'll do kind of a certain number of sets for arms, and they change all the other stuff. They change the cadence, they do the stretches, they do the good arrangement of exercises, but they never really sink into the idea of like, look, you train your arms with 12 sets a week, right? 12 sets biceps, 12 triceps, just a simple example. And they're like, yeah, it works great. Like, have you ever tried training with more? And they're like, well, 12 is kind of all I seem to be able to recover from. Like, dope, of course. Why don't you reduce everything else? And they're like, okay, so maybe like 14 sets now? You're like, Start with 8 sets and go up and up and up. As you recover, continue to go up. And they might hit you up a few weeks later and be like, dude, I'm doing 22 sets for arms. Somehow I'm like still making gains. And you're like, well, that's awesome. And I mean, gains in strength week after week. They're going to find in almost every study this is confirmed, if you can recover from 22 sets of arms, it's better for growth than 12 sets for that same individual. So when you're thinking about training volumes, definitely start low. But if you've cleared your fatigue bandwidth by reducing all the other muscle groups you're training, don't be afraid to really lean into that volume. You may find that you were doing 70%, 50%, or even 30% of the volume you could have recovered from. And all of a sudden, the biggest reason why you're making big arm gains is because you can just do more sets. And you had no idea this many sets was possible until you tried it. Give it a shot. All science confirmed. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions about arm building in the comments below, or if you've heard any myths and stuff like that. Maybe some other person said, hey, this is really good for arms. Shoot a comment in the comment section. Maybe I'll see it. Maybe we'll make some more videos about dispelling myths and stuff like that. Folks, thanks so much. And next time I see you, you better have the biggest arms in the world, and then I'll be impressed. Peace.